Of the future will be the result of decisions we must make today.
Everyone knows that government agencies are corrupt. It's common sense. It's clear that the system is broken and they're all crossing the line. Homeland Security, IRS, the USDA, the Treasury, the EPA, all of it BS. But rarely is it so blatant as it is with the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, because, well, very, very few people pay attention at all to them. Hardly any resistance was put up against net neutrality rules, and that was a fairly big media story. Almost no one said anything about the mergers between the giant telecoms and the general complete takeover of communications. There really wasn't any resistance to the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which opened up a whole can of worms, a whole set of Pandora's boxes with the NSA and everyone else. But now they've opened up the floodgates to massive corporate control over our lives, a total surveillance system on the part of government agencies and their contractors, and the very near blanketing of the entire population.
Literally, of everyone in the world. Literally, of everyone in the world. Autonomous vehicles, smart city energy grids, transportation networks, and water systems. Immersive education and entertainment will come from the cloud. The driving force of the 21st century will be powerful processing, centralized in the cloud, and wirelessly connected to thin clients.
All of whom will be saturated with gigahertz signals literally everywhere they go on the planet, and no one has permission.
The United States will be the first country in the world to open up high-band spectrum for 5G networks and applications. And that's damn important, and will generate tens of billions of dollars in economic activity.
Big surprise, since this FCC chairman, now a former chairman, who was appointed by Obama, big surprise since he used to be the president of 2 industry lobbyist organizations. Tom Wheeler was formerly president of the National Cable and Telecommunications Association and the CEO of the Cellular, Telecom, and Internet Association.
Chairman Wheeler put the entire fixed and mobile broadband industry under a stricter regulatory regime. He has done so many things that have angered his former employers at the NCTA and CTIA have sued the FCC during his tenure. He explains his actions by saying, "I used to be an advocate for corporate interests, and I hope I was a good one. But today, my client is the American people, and I want to be the best damn advocate for the American people that I can be."
So he represents the industry, he got appointed to the position, and he just fox and henhouse the whole thing. He just prostituted it all. So it's no wonder that he gives a no-holds-barred, full-force push to usher in 5G everywhere upon everyone, to swiftly and fully silence any and all dissenters, to ignore all the real questions, and to make sure that the safety data, to make sure that safety studies don't even happen.
Unlike some countries, we do not believe that we should spend the next couple of years studying what 5G should be or how it should operate. We won't wait for the standards. Turning innovators loose is far preferable to expecting committees and regulators to define the future.
And to make sure that questions about the biological effects of non-ionizing radiation are kept to an absolute minimum, off the table, out of the public eye, and nowhere near the FCC conversation.
How many people have to die from brain cancer before the federal government puts warning labels on cell phones?
It's time to tell the American public the truth. Wireless causes cancer and killing hundreds, and you don't care. You don't give a damn.
Because they're going to rubber stamp this thing right through, no doubt about it. They already have. And what else would you expect from a lobbyist? The trade-off gives total power to these companies, to various government agencies, and to anyone in between who's interested in spying, hackers. It opens it up for everyone. And as technology races forward in what is already a world dominated by cell phones and people looking lost into little screens, it will now be completely saturated with high-speed connections.
The next generation of wireless must be mobile fiber, 10 to 100 times faster than what we're used to today. We need to speed the deployment of 5G here on our shores. Yes, 5G will connect the Internet of Everything. If something can be connected, it will be connected in a 5G world. Of hundreds of billions of microchips connected in products from pill bottles to plant waterers, you can be sure of only one thing. The biggest Internet of Things application has yet
Every
to be
single
imagined.
device and appliance in manufacture is being fitted with a two-way communication device, and it sends data back. Spying and surveillance is completely built in. It's a total default, and it's the given. Location tracking, health data, audio and visual recordings, text, and everything else is going to be continually collected. And Tom Wheeler of the FCC freely admits it. He thinks it's great because it's going to make everything faster, and it's going to make more money.
We take our most significant step yet down the path to our 5G future.
Others have covered it as well, but this is an issue that is not well known enough. 5G is a huge upgrade to the system. It is a complete overhaul compared with 3G and 4G. It's not only dramatically faster speeds, which is what they're going to play up to sell it to consumers and tell everyone what a great convenience and advancement that it is, but it is also a literal complete infrastructure overhaul.
Now, to make this work, the 5G build-out is going to be very infrastructure intensive, requiring massive deployment of small cells. The big game changer is that 5G will use much higher frequency bands than previously thought viable for mobile broadband and other applications. Such millimeter wave signals have physical properties that are both a limitation and a strength. They tend to travel best in narrow and straight lines, and they do not go through physical objects as well. This means that very narrow signals in an urban environment tend to bounce around buildings and other obstacles, making it difficult to connect to a moving point. But brilliant engineers have developed new antennas that can aim and amplify signals, coupled with sophisticated processing that allows a moving device to pick up all of the signals that are bouncing around and create one coherent connection.
They're going to put up boxes on telephone poles, or at least that's what the articles have said, and they're going to be on ground level sites and everywhere else, and it will completely replace the now obsolete cell towers that you've seen around and you've got used to seeing. Those are obsolete. These are coming in very quickly. The cell phone and wireless companies are spending billions of dollars. They're racing to complete installation of the system by 2020. And that's now only 3 years away.
Verizon and AT&T tell us they'll begin deploying 5G trials in 2017. First commercial deployments they're talking about are expected in 2020.
They're fueling money into cities and private owners where the towers will be installed. They're paying them off, and they're moving so fast that there's going to be very few places that are free at all anymore. I don't want to add paranoia, I don't want to make people fearful, but basically, where can you run from this? Once this system is fully launched and up, it's going to be just like the Terminator Genesis system. It's going to be the rise of AI, and it's going to be like there's no looking back.
We must reject the notion that the 5G future will be the sole providence of urban areas. The 5G revolution will touch all corners of our country. We are the pioneers of a new spectrum frontier.
No one gave permission for this because most people don't fully understand what's happening or why it matters. They're going to click on little agreements on their cell phone for the different sites they visit, and they're going to have no idea how much is going to be taken from that. But it's clear that this is not a good bargain, and people need to be warned. They should try to oppose this in their local cities and where they can, and try to challenge these companies, because they don't want to face resistance, and they don't want a population that knows about the dangers and the risks of this technology. But the capabilities of this technology are absolutely unfathomable. I can't cover it all in this video. Go look it up for yourself. Now, I'm not going to get into Dr. Rasa Day of UCLA right now, do a more in-depth video later on, or a lot of the other brain doctors and neurological researchers, but Rasa Day was working with the CIA and exchanging technology and study data with the Russians back in the 60s and 70s and even further back, and he figured out scientifically, demonstratively, how non-ionizing radiation at various specific frequencies from microwaves or from other signals, how they could alter human and animal behavior. For instance, a simple 10 Hz wave could put someone into a stupor within a couple of minutes. Using neuroelectric devices that they developed by the 70s, they could put individuals or entire towns to sleep on command. They can aggravate people, they can alter their sexual preferences, they could delete their memories, they could turn on desire, they could turn on repulsion, and they could otherwise hijack someone's spontaneous and natural behavior. They could literally hijack your nervous system and your brain. And that was 30 or 40 years ago. Now things are very advanced, they're very precise, and they're very far along. There's discussions now at the Davos World Economic Forum that have broached the topic of mind reading and literal mind control. And these devices, the capability to do it is built into everything, every handheld unit, every laptop, mobile device that everyone's carrying around. And once things are fast enough with 5G, all bets are off. The constant ubiquitous connection with these next generation 5G towers, I mean, what else can you say? You either see it or you don't.
4-year-old Charlotte Holmgren has a bedroom view that nearly everyone in Little Silver, New Jersey is talking about.
Do you know what that is?
Tower.
This cell tower is just 120 feet from her home.
I'm scared to death that she's going to wake up with cancer or reproductive issues.
Charlotte's mother, Alicia Holmgren, says the 95-foot structure was built within a week in May, smack in the middle of town, with seemingly no warning to residents.
Homeowners in one Long Island town are preparing for a fight. Two dozen cell phone repeaters installed in front of their homes. It was done legally, but residents say they were never told that it was happening. CBS 2's Carolyn Gussoff reports now from Woodbury.
The view from Denise Tufano's Woodbury home abruptly changed last month. Towering on her front lawn, a cell phone repeater.
I could not believe this was actually happening. I said, how could the town permit this? How could they do this to us?
She and Woodbury neighbors fuming over the placement of 22 cell repeaters for Verizon in front of homes on what's technically public property without notice or compensation.
You couldn't give me $10 million for this, okay? There are potential health risks to these. They are aesthetically not pleasing. There's also the devaluation of our home properties.
5G technology promises faster service, but the jury is out on constant exposure to its radio frequency radiation. .5G technology promises faster service, but the jury is out on constant exposure to its radio frequency radiation.
Your cell phone you use, you put down. Microwave you use, you stop. This is constant bombardment, and we don't know what is the long-term is the long-term effects.
Residents say their cell service was good enough.
Put them in a commercial area. We don't need it. And you know what? We should have at least been asked. I don't think the health of my children is as important as my cell phone service.
When CBS 2 asked the town of Oyster-based supervisor why here, he showed up at this protest and was peppered with residents' demands.
They have no place in front of homes in residential neighborhoods.
Now, what about the ones that already
Excuse me.
New to the Post, Joseph Saladino says the town's hands are tied by federal rules that cut local governments out. Town Supervisor Saladino vows to do everything in his power to get these taken down and prevent new ones from going up in front of homes. In his power, the operative words. In Woodbury, Long Island, Carolyn Gussoff, CBS 2 News.
Verizon tells CBS 2 to keep up with the explosive growth. They need the antennas closer to where people are trying to connect so that they will get better coverage. They claim that the small cells have exposure levels similar to baby monitors and microwave ovens.
California City is fighting back at a proposed law that is moving quickly through the legislature. They say it would allow phone companies to put up new antennas in your neighborhood, whether you like it or not. KPX 5's Phil Matier in Walnut Creek. And Phil, today you heard some of the opposition in Sacramento, right?
That's right, and a lot of it is based on what you see around us here in Walnut Creek. You're walking down the street in the downtown of your little town, and you maybe one day will look up at a street lamp like this, and sitting on top of it is something totally unexpected. A cell phone antenna. Here's the story.
5G wireless has the potential to be a game changer.
But to pave the way for that game change, telecom companies need to put up between 30,000 and 50,000 of these small cell antennas, including several likely in your town over the next 5 years, but with only limited local say.
Local neighborhoods would be seeing something the size of a refrigerator showing up on a street pole, and they could say nothing to stop it.
A library, a school.
On traffic signals, on light poles. This would give the companies free rein to install these small cells on any public infrastructure, and we would have no ability to say no.
We're also talking about an industry that is a big player in California politics. In the 2016 election cycle, telecommunication companies contribute over $3 million to both California Democrats and Republicans that are now deciding on this bill, which, by the way, shot through committee on a 6-1 vote with 2 abstentions. It's going to be a tug of war, but it looks like they're going to win, so it's only a matter of time when we're going to be seeing these. By the way, you'll be able to check it all out on the internet because they're going to make that faster as well. In Walnut Creek, Phil Matier, KPIX 5. Back to you guys.
Hi, this is John in Los Angeles. It's October 22nd, 2017, about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm at a park in Dominguez, California here. That was a little religious ceremony they got going down there. So I'm looking around the park, and I'm looking at this. Look at this. This is a microwave cell tower, guys, right out in the open where anybody can walk up to it. People are being hit by it that are playing in the park and all this stuff. And I'm gonna show you the signs here, wide open. Look at this. You can freeze frame the video if you want to read some of this. I won't stay on it too long, but just take a look at this. Look at this. Yeah, you really want to salute this. They're microwaving the piss out of us all, and they're disguising it as this. This is what they do. They put the flag on things so you trust it. Well, I don't trust it, all right? Put the flag on things so you trust it. Well, I don't trust it.
Tour guide said that one of the reasons they wanted to build the data center in Utah was because of the patriotism of people from Utah.
Yeah, that was one of my questions is, you know, why did you come here? And his response was, the electricity is cheap and the people are patriotic. And I read that as a code word, is that nobody's going to ask any questions. And, you know, that kind of sat with me uneasily, that in my opinion, patriotism is questioning your government consistently. The idea that we're just sheep out here and we're not going to care, I think is, you know, even though we're a very conservative state, I think a lot of people would bristle at that idea.
Put the flag on things so you trust it. Well, I don't trust it.
You may sign up to speak. You may, please leave. Please leave the room. Thank you. Please leave. Shame on you.
Tempers seemed to flare at the county school board meeting. This as board members heard from the public
about putting up a cell tower on the grounds of Shadyside Elementary School.
You are the deciders. The process started here, the process tracks here, the process ends here.
Those opposed to the cell tower, some of them parents, say they have long-term health concerns. They were counting on the board to take action by casting a vote, even though it was only a review item.
As board members, please protect our children. We absolutely need you today to be brave.
Even as both sides lined up to be heard, it was evident there was still plenty of frustration. That's when the board had to call in security.
It's time for you to leave.
Thank you, I will, thank you.
There was public support for the Shadyside cell tower from residents who tried to convince the board of the benefits.
With the current storms brewing in the Atlantic this week, I think about safety. Will my cell phone work if I call for help? I think about safety. Will my cell phone work if I call for help or try to let my family know that I'm okay?
Please do not let the financial agenda of these small few in our community bully this board into backing out of this plan.
One board member called for a vote on the issue, even though he realized the item was only up for review.
Motion fails at this time.
That said, the cell tower proposal, now out of the hands of the school board, awaits an official permit. Now, looking beyond Shadyside, there are two other pending cell phone tower proposals, one of them on the grounds of school board headquarters. So what's the financial benefit? Last year, the school system collected a little more than $81,000. Live in the studio, Tim Tootin, WBAL, TV 11 News.
Of all the places in Shadyside, why are you trying to put a cell phone tower in my kid's playground? There's like 1,000 other places you can put a cell phone tower.
This is ground zero for the best possible opportunity to create. I understand, but the point I'm making is this: you're asking why I can't go somewhere else, right? You're asking why can't I go like a mile away or 2 miles away? The answer is this is the best place to fill the hole in the network. You're asking, why can't I go like a mile away or 2 miles away? The answer is this is the best place to fill the hole in the network.
Really? There's really everywhere else in Shadyside. You're trying to tell me everywhere else in Shadyside you can't get more than 200 feet from a building or somebody's property line or whatever. That's what you're trying to tell me?
What I'm saying.
And will you be guaranteed? Will we be guaranteed that the school is the cell tower is safe for us kids? And we won't get some sort of cancer or anything like that. Because I don't want cancer.
Can I ask what grade you're in?
What?
What grade are you in?
5th.
You're in 5th grade.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going into 5th.
When my son was 9 years old, in the 3rd grade, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He went to a school where there was a cell tower within 300 or 400 feet from his elementary school, at Forest Hill Elementary School in Fairfax County. So if there's anyone that can understand your concern, it's me. Because I'm a parent of a child who had cancer and survived cancer. And I can tell you that there is no credible evidence to demonstrate that my son got cancer from that cell tower. That there is no credible evidence to demonstrate that my son got cancer from that cell tower. Because the reality is that there's no evidence to show that it causes harm. And I wouldn't be the business that would cause harm. And I can tell you that there is no credible evidence to demonstrate that my son got cancer from that cell tower. Because the reality is that there's no evidence to show that God is harmed. And I wouldn't put a big piece of president.
Verizon cell tower will go up in Appleton. A judge ruled in favor of the company last week, but the city of Appleton and nearby neighbors are not happy with that decision. Fox 11's Alexa Santos has this Fox 11 follow-up.
It just doesn't belong there.
Neighbors near a proposed Verizon cell tower in Appleton are disappointed with a judge's decision to allow the company to build.
At the end of the day, nobody should be allowed to build a cell tower that close to a residential area.
The city of Appleton tried to stop it. The Common Council denied the permit for constructing the tower because of concerns from neighbors about safety and loss of property values.
They came forward and they really laid out their case. It was a pretty powerful case. So council said, no. See what happens. We'll take our chances.
In August, Verizon sued the city of Appleton over that decision. Outagamie County Judge Nancy Krieger ruled in favor of Verizon's claim that Appleton didn't provide enough evidence to support that permit denial, and those grounds are not valid for denying a permit.
We're definitely pleased with the outcome, and for us it really comes down to public safety. And for us it really comes down to public safety.
And I can tell you that there is no credible evidence to demonstrate that my son got cancer from that cell tower. Because the reality is that there's no evidence to show that God is harmed. And I wouldn't put a big piece of president.
And for us it really comes down to public safety.
Verizon says it wanted to fill in gaps in coverage in the Appleton area and also make sure people could use their phones in case of an emergency.
I think about safety. Will my cell phone work if I call for help or try to let my family know that I'm okay?
People living near St. Joseph's Church on Green Bay's south side are voicing their concerns, protesting this morning against a cell phone tower that will be built on church grounds. Protesters of this tower say there are several reasons they do not want the tower to be built there, including what they say are health risks, lowering the value of their property, and messing with televisions and radios on their homes. A staff member of the Quad Parishes told us some of the reasons the church agreed to having the cell phone tower on its property, including financial benefits.
Provide better cell phone coverage. And nowadays everybody has a cell phone. So that's one of the main things. It will be an evangelization tool for us. It's going to be a clock tower, and it will have our church name on all four sides, a cross on the top lit up so that people will know that there's a church here.
It's a terrible location to put up a 140-foot tall cell phone tower.
Willoughby Hills residents like Dan Valerian say they were stunned to learn their mayor approved a massive cell tower to be built here at this location on River Road without them even knowing it. A location residents say is all wrong.
The beauty of the Chagrin Valley on one side, residential areas all around you, a historic cemetery, a historic building, and you're just going to wedge this thing right in the middle of all that?
And some Willoughby Hills council members say the mayor broke the law by approving the project.
And to find out that the mayor had signed it months before the first meeting was held, I think that's just wrong. And frankly, at our December meeting, we asked the mayor, not once but twice, did you sign any agreement with Verizon or the representatives? He said no both times.
Did you sign this lease without consulting residents?
Yes, I did.
Did you sign this lease without consulting residents?
Yes, I did.
Mayor Robert Weger admitted he approved the project without talking to residents, but told me City Council was in on the deal. A deal that could have Willoughby Hills facing a lawsuit if it doesn't follow through.
It's got to go through 2 readings at the Planning Commission, and that hasn't happened yet.
Reporting here in Willoughby Hills, I'm News 5 investigator Joe Paganakis.
Residents in one of El Paso's oldest neighborhoods are speaking out against a proposed cell phone tower. KFOX 14 News at 9's Megan Lopez attended a Sunset Heights community meeting tonight to find out why they're so opposed to it. She joins us live in the studio to explain why residents say they don't want the tower. Megan.
Robert, people who live in the Sunset Heights Historic District say the 60-foot tall tower will be an eyesore. They say it doesn't belong in their community. The president of the Sunset Heights Neighborhood Improvement Association, Cito Negron, says the tower and the city is currently considering whether it wants to let Crown Castle build that tower for Verizon Wireless. These are some artistic renderings of what that tower could look like. Negron says that the company offered designs that would look like a Bhutanese structure to disguise the tower so it would resemble a UTEP design. But some of the residents I spoke with tonight say that's not enough.
Now, they talked about disguising it to look like a UTEP tower, you know? But this is not UTEP. This is Sunset Heights. If they want to put that over there by UTEP, you know, that's their decision.
It's not consistent with the integrity of the historic nature of the neighborhood.
It might not be to the benefit of anybody but the cell carrier and the property owner. It's definitely not to the benefit of the neighborhood.
Aside from being an eyesore, Negron tells me that the company has to get special permission to build that tower in that area because it's so close to some houses. Tonight, Sunset Heights residents met at Hal Marcus Gallery to discuss their options. Some have sent letters to the city's planning commission to ask for another area to be chosen for that tower. The city's planning commission is set to hear the cell phone tower proposal tomorrow afternoon. Reporting live, Megan Lopez, KFOX 14 News.
Every new generation of wireless networks delivers faster speeds and more functionality to our smartphones. 1G brought us the very first cell phones, 2G let us text for the first time, 3G brought us online, and 4G delivered the speeds that we enjoy today. But as more users come online, 4G networks have just about reached the limit of what they're capable of at a time when users want even more data for their smartphones and devices. Now we're headed toward 5G, the next generation of wireless. It will be able to handle 1,000 times more traffic than today's networks, and it'll be up to 10 times faster than 4G LTE. Just imagine downloading an HD movie in under a second, and then let your imagination run wild. 5G will be the foundation for virtual reality, autonomous driving, the Internet of Things, and stuff we can't even yet imagine. But what exactly is a 5G network? The truth is, experts can't tell us what 5G actually is because they don't even know yet. Your smartphone and other electronic devices in your home use very specific frequencies on the radio frequency spectrum, typically those under 6 gigahertz. But these frequencies are starting to get more crowded. Carriers can only squeeze so many bits of data on the same amount of radio frequency spectrum. As more devices come online, we're going to start to see slower service and more dropped connections. The solution is to open up some new real estate. So researchers are experimenting with broadcasting on shorter millimeter waves, those that fall between 30 and 300 gigahertz. This section of spectrum has never been used before for mobile devices, and opening it up means more bandwidth for everyone. But there is a catch. Millimeter waves can't travel well through buildings or other obstacles, and they tend to be absorbed by plants and rain. To get around this problem, we'll need technology number 2, small cell networks. Today's wireless networks rely on large, high-powered cell towers to broadcast their signals over long distances. But remember, higher frequency millimeter waves have a harder time traveling through obstacles, which means if you move behind one, you lose your signal. Small cell networks would solve that problem, using thousands of low-power mini base stations. These base stations would be much closer together than traditional towers, forming a sort of relay team to transmit signals around obstacles.
We know people are already getting sick from the lower frequencies, and we expect, that is our scientists expect, that these higher, ultra-high frequency microwaves are going to bring people to disease quicker and in a more intense form. The other problem with 5G technology is these microwaves are very short. So our old microwaves were about 2.5 to 3 feet long. These are now about 1 inch to ½ an inch long, and they don't travel very well. So they're going to have to put a little cell tower transmitter in front of about every 2 to 10 homes. Now this is a big problem because we know The cancer rates around regular cell towers are about 3 or 4 times what they normally should be. We also know that there's neurological symptoms that increase as you get closer and closer to a cell tower. Now, these new transmitters are going to be placed close to people's homes. It's going to be continuous exposure as with other cell towers, but it'll be emitting a much more higher frequency, high intensity wireless radiation.
If you've seen the last episode of Cold Noir, you will have seen that we've included a lot of patents. I specifically stopped short of including this patent because after reading through it pretty thoroughly, I decided that this needed its own video. We're surrounded by so much technology, and it has become so integrated into our lives that I don't think people even realize some of what these things can do. I honestly don't think at this point that we are taught traditionally almost anything about how the world actually works. They churn everybody out in public schools to walk around just blind to everything. Just a mindless consumer, no critical thought, just sitting in front of your television, being programmed. That's why they call it programming. This is one of the creepiest patents I've ever read. And it's a real this is the thing. This is, I mean, you watch sci-fi shows and horror movies, and oh, that's scary for 2 hours, but you read something like this, and then you just start thinking about how everything really works. I mean, we've not been told. We haven't been told how we work, okay? Let alone how everything else does. And then you come to something like this. So I've had this patent in a folder printed off for a while. I've been meaning to talk about it. And then I saw recently Richie from Boston covered this actually, and I was like, wow, that's kind of rare that he got this sent to him too. Good. I hope more people are talking about things like this. This is the kind of stuff that's actually going on in the reality that we're all sharing. This is United States patent number 6,506,148B2, dated January 14th, 2003. And this is the 10th in a series of patents by this particular man, all about manipulation of your nervous system, and in some ways remote manipulation, subliminal manipulation, and he ended with this one here, nervous system manipulation by electromagnetic fields from monitors. And I just wanted to go over this with you because this is a thing that exists, and it existed over a decade ago, well before they made the forced switch to digital, where they can layer the signals, and if there is anything strange in that, you're not going to see the interference, right? This has to do with physiological effects that have been observed in human subjects in response to stimulation of the skin with weak electromagnetic fields pulsed with certain frequencies near half a hertz or 2.4 hertz, such as to excite a sensory resonance. Many computer monitors and TV tubes, when displaying pulsed images, emit pulsed electromagnetic fields of sufficient amplitudes to cause such excitation. It is therefore possible to manipulate the nervous system of a subject by pulsing images displayed on a nearby computer monitor or TV set. For the latter, the image pulsing may be embedded in a program material or overlaid by modulating a video stream, either as an RF signal or video signal. The image displayed on a computer monitor may be pulsed effectively by a simple computer program. For certain monitors, pulsed electromagnetic fields capable of exciting sensory resonances in nearby subjects may be generated even as the displayed images are pulsed with subliminal intensity. In other words, you don't even know they're doing it. And then he has all these lovely drawings to go with this, which are just great. Actually, I have a favorite. It's this one right here. Remote computer, internet, her computer, her monitor, her. You see that? They can do this remotely and you don't even know that it's being done to you. And there's the kids. Gotta have the kids in there. Anyway, he goes on to say that the electric field in studies by Norbert Wiener, that would be the father of cybernetics back during World War II and the Cold War, was arranged to provide a direct electrical driving of the brain. That's what this kind of stuff is based on. And he goes on to say that it's been found that indeed physiological effects can be induced in the manner by very weak electric fields if they're pulsed with a frequency near half a hertz. The observed effects which is just the ones they had for this particular patent, include ptosis of the eyelids, which means your eyelids close and flutter, relaxation, drowsiness, the feeling of pressure at a centered spot on the lower edge of your brow, seeing moving patterns of dark purple and greenish yellow when your eyes are closed, a tonic smile, a tense feeling in your stomach, sudden loose stool, and sexual excitement, all depending upon the precise frequency used and the skin area to which this field is applied. So, you ever watch a movie and you're not really feeling it all that much? Let's say it's a romantic movie and you're not really feeling it, and something happens and the two characters are swooning and they play that swell of music, and even though you're not really feeling it and you kind of think the movie's lame, you still get emotional and you start crying. Or like when people used to cry at long distance commercials back when we had long distance commercials. I don't know, I'm probably dating myself now and how old I am when I say stuff like that, but the point is, we've all had moments in watching movies or different things where your emotions don't match how you really feel based on the film, and you could just say that's creative filmmaking. But when you see something like this, you gotta wonder, is it also something like this? Because they can do this. And he's saying right here they have the ability to. And if you read at the first page again, this patent is based on years worth of other patents. So it isn't like he just came up with this off the spot. He's got 10 of his own patents based on doing this kind of stuff. Then he goes on to say in the summary that the implementation of the invention is adapted to the source of video stream that drives the monitor, be it a computer program, a TV broadcast, a videotape, or a DVD. And a program written in Visual Basic is particularly suitable for use on computers that run Windows 95 or 98. That's how basic this technology is. Okay? It does not take much. They could use Visual Basic to run it on Windows 95. Okay? So, and this is all those years ago. I have no idea what they have today. And it is to the point that at the end of his own patent, in the summary, this man, Hendrikus Lewes, says, certain monitors can emit electromagnetic field pulses that excite a sensory resonance in a nearby subject through image pulses that are so weak as to be subliminal. This is unfortunate since it opens a way for mischievous application of the invention whereby people are exposed unknowingly to manipulation of their nervous systems for someone else's purposes. Such application would be unethical and is of course not advocated. It is mentioned here in order to alert the public to the possibility of covert abuse that may occur while being online, while watching TV, a video, or a DVD. I've read a lot of patents actually in my day, and I've never seen somebody warn in their own patent of the covert misuse of something the way that guy just did in his own patent. What makes it even more disconcerting is when you look up information about this, and other people have looked up because they've seen all these patents and they went, what the hell? And if you go look at his history, it becomes much more disconcerting that he's coming up with these things. It wasn't like he just thought of this by himself and randomly came up with it. This is a guy who during the 50s was working with Plasmodine Corporation and then Douglas Aircraft's Advanced Research Department. Douglas Aircraft, of course, linked to Lawrence Rockefeller, lots of black Cold War projects going on with them. Then he went on in the 80s and started working on government projects as a contractor with the likes of the Department of Defense, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA. So that's Hendrikus Lewes, and they go on to say in this article that he had a website called qwave.com, but it's nothing more of a copy of a site. But I actually went back to the Wayback Machine and found the old website that this guy started. And after reading through Are You Sensitive to Electric Fields and the Q&A that he has here, I feel like the guy almost has remorse for what he's created, or he figured out through this series of patents that he put out over the 90s and the early 2000s that he was coming up with something that wasn't actually very good. And so he wanted to warn people about it. And that's kind of what I get, the sense I get from this website of his that he had up at the time. This is no longer a current website, but back in the day he had this, and he said that depending on these frequencies, relaxation, drowsiness, sexual arousal, he knew he could cause all these things with this program. And he says that electric field pulses capable of exciting a sensory resonance can be generated by small insulated electrodes packed flat in the space of a credit card. So it doesn't take much for this. This can be just put right into the television monitor. It can be put right into your VCR, your VHS tapes. I mean, computer programs, anything, computer monitors, whatever, right? Since we cannot sense the field directly, our nervous system can thereby be manipulated covertly for someone else's purposes. And then he was selling for rather cheap, $14 at the time, a program that you could buy and put onto your computer, and then you could test it on yourself to see how susceptible you are to this. And that's what his whole website is about. And then under the Q&A section, he's got all of his other patents. And like I said, you have everything here. Subliminal acoustic manipulation of your nervous system, manipulation of nervous systems by electric fields, magnetic excitation, pulsative manipulation. I mean, he's got it all right here. These are his 10 patents. And it ended with this one on monitors. And then he made this website. And the whole thing is just replete with him feeling, I think, pretty badly about what he did. You have to understand, all of these science projects, right? The government has these contractors and they make things and they're very compartmentalized. And I don't think people a lot of times realize, not all the time, some people are just horrible people and they're just in things for bad means. But I think some people actually genuinely think, I'm an engineer, I'm a scientist, I'm doing good things. And they don't even have the foresight to realize what their stuff could be used for and that it could be used against the general public. That's what this patent is, and that's just one. There are a lot of others I'd like to go through. I have a whole thing of patents that I've printed off. I just have never had a chance to get to them all. But this particular one, it blows my mind because people just have no idea. We're walking around bathed in so much electromagnetic radiation right now, background. Human beings have never been exposed to the level that humanity is currently being exposed to in our modern technological age. And we're carrying cell phones in our pockets. We're sitting in front of our computer monitors. We're sitting in front of our television sets. And people just don't have any idea the myriad uses that these things can be put to, all the stuff it can do. People are just blissfully ignorant. They don't know. And I personally don't want to go through life blissfully ignorant. I'd like to be informed. I mean, when I think of this, it reminds me of Videodrome. If you haven't seen the movie Videodrome, it's a very weird, creepy, violent movie, but they said in that movie the battle for the minds of North America would be fought in the Videodrome, and it was about programming that was turning people violent and crazy. And I mean, he mentioned some of the things that weak electromagnetic fields can do at certain pulsed frequencies, but that was not an exhaustive list of everything that they can do. And I bet it's a lot more than just making people cry at sappy movies. All right? So I just thought you guys should be aware of that. You always get people coming into your videos and they say things like, what am I supposed to do with that information? Well, it's supposed to help empower you to at least know that this is a thing.
His face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the night.
Hey, what's up guys? Gons here for the Face Like the Sun channel. There's a book called Between Two Ages written by technocrat Zbigniew Brzezinski, who just recently passed away. This was written in 1970, and here's what he said in it, quote, "The changes wrought by communications and computers make for an extraordinarily interwoven society whose members are in continuous and close audiovisual contact, constantly interacting, instantly sharing the most intense social experiences, and prompted to increase personal involvement in even the most distant problems. The new generation no longer defines the world exclusively on the basis of reading, either of ideologically structured analysis or of extensive descriptions. It also experiences and senses it vicariously through audiovisual communications. The new reality, however, will not be that of a global village. A more appropriate analogy is that of the global city, a nervous, agitated, tense, and fragmented web of interdependent relations. That interdependence, however, is better characterized by interaction than by intimacy. Instant communications are already creating something akin to a global nervous system. Occasional malfunctions of this nervous system because of blackouts or breakdowns will be all the more unsettling precisely because the mutual confidence and reciprocally reinforcing stability that are characteristics of village intimacy will be absent from the process of that nervous interaction." End quote. One of the things I said during the election of 2016 was that both sides of the aisle completely ignored the topic of transhumanism and the technological enslavement program. A big part of that plan is in the UN Sustainable Development Agenda. Now, President Trump has moved away from some of the elements here, primarily the TPP, which was the work of the traditional globalists, as well as the climate change deal, which again was part of the same old globalist elite. And many of us thought that that was a good thing, and truly, that is a good thing, but there are still concerns. With Trump having plans to make America great again, I'm trying to stay level and be cautious about what that means, because it might inadvertently help other areas of the UN 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda to develop. And I'm specifically talking about this new rat race being played between nations, the one involving technological infrastructure that supports Web 3.0 with tools like 5G, more AI integration, the blockchain, and the Internet of Things really coming online. These developments will only help increase the power of already highly developed public technology like the Large Hadron Collider at CERN in Geneva, Switzerland, and the numerous particle accelerators around the world. And of course, we can't forget the Vatican, who owns the most sophisticated telescope, ironically, or perhaps not, named Lucifer. The world of politics is absolutely insane right now. The lunatic liberal left has been exposed as open fascists and political hypocrites. The alt-right is being drawn into the drumbeats of civil war as a reactionary stance against the illogical baiting of the lunatic left. But between the transmission from InfoWars and MSM storylines that distract us to no end are the continued developments of the real New World Order. A big part of this ministry has been a warning of what's coming. It's being touted as the fourth industrial revolution, and like the life cycle of a butterfly from egg to caterpillar to chrysalis and finally the fourth transition into a beautiful butterfly. This stage of the technological revolution is poised to be a deal breaker for many of us. Now let me be clear, technology itself is not evil or good, but the intention of those constructing it all around us don't have our best interest in mind. This technological infrastructure for a global currency, massive surveillance, Internet of Things, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, DNA databases, smart dust, smart cities, nanobots, bioengineering, virtual and augmented realities, implantable technology,